Welcome back to Ethereal Material, where the mystical meets the practical.
We are Carla and Priscilla, two professional mediums discussing the gap between the seen and the unseen.
And everything is on the table. We are not afraid to talk about anything. And today we're going to take questions that our listeners have sent in. We're going to just address a bunch of them and answer them as concisely as we can. We love to get your questions. There are no stupid questions. So this is your opportunity. You can, reach out to us on Buzzsprout through fan mail or in Instagram, and we have an email and info@etherealmaterialpodcast.com, and also
Ethereal material.
etherealmaterialpod@gmail.
Gmail.
Um, and we're,
TikTok.
and we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, of course, we're on Buzzsprout. So,
Spotify now. We are on Spotify.
oh, that's right, we're on Spotify. So we would love to, even if we don't make a whole episode out of it, we bunch them together when there's several we can go through and answer them as quickly and concisely as we can with our experience. And if we don't know the answer, we'll tell you we don't know the answer. So we're totally cool with that because we're practical and we're grounded, even though we work with the dead.
Even though we talk to some dead people every day.
Talk to dead people. So let's pull up the first question. And it is, speaking of dead people, are we disturbing the dead when we talk to them? So what do you think about that?
So my take on that from my experience, and it's speaking from experience, not theory, is no, absolutely not. I'm not sure who made that up, and maybe I'm wrong, but in 16 years now, because this month marks 16 years of me doing this work, I believe our spirit people are happy when we're happy and they can connect to us. They're not, hovering over us. But that's my take. Yours?
Is the same. I have never had a spirit person say, leave me alone already,
Right.
and I have suggested to clients in the living world, because the dead, there are clients too, but our clients in the living world, maybe you for your own healing don't want to come once a month. You're not
Right.
disturbing your dad in spirit or your sister in spirit or your child in spirit, but think about if that's good for you. And so I generally ask people to let 4 to 6 months go by before coming back for another reading. I don't, unlike a psychic reading where I discourage people from regular, not discourage, but I suggest they let life play out for several months before making another psychic appointment. Um, I don't really feel like there's a specific time between mediumship, spirit communication readings. But for me, my sense is that's for the living people, because I've never had the spirit people say, leave me alone already.
No.
And I've had clients who have gone to a number of mediums before they come to me, and then go to a number of mediums after me, just because they want to keep that connection going.
Okay, so we're in agreement on that one?
We're in agreement on that. You're not disturbing them if you're talking to them yourself, or you're going to a medium, or you're going to a group demonstration, or any of those things. How about this one? The spirit? I'm going to say that they must mean the spirits. The spirits follow you around after a reading is over. I have a solid no about that too. How about you?
It's funny. I have a solid no, but maybe not as solid as yours. I have not experienced that really, not in my personal work. I did do like a haunted house investigation many years ago,
Huh.
and one at which I was kind of uncomfortable with. I didn't let them know what I did for a living.
Yeah.
Of course, I was the one who was everything was triggering off my machinery and everything. And it was the first and only time in my life when I got in the car, I thought someone was in the car with me.
Mm.
And I used all my tactics of telling them to leave. And I thought they did. And the next day, I thought someone walked up behind me in the kitchen and I turned. And I
Mm.
was like, okay, but keep in mind, I wasn't doing my work.
Right.
I
Yes.
was doing an investigation and I was like, yeah, so that happened there. But in my own work, no. But I do a thing where I rub my hands together and I
Hmm.
say my mind, my body, and my spirit, and I break from it. I have not seen in all these years anything like that when I'm connecting.
Now that you mention that, I would have to agree. My no wasn't quite as solid. But in my work, I would say nobody's mom or dad has either followed me home or stayed at the client's house if I was over there, or got in their car and followed them home. So I think I'd like to disabuse our listeners of the notion that we open a door that somehow we can't close. Um, and while I don't have kind of a closing ritual, I've been doing this a little bit longer than you. I'm about 20 years now.
Yeah.
Where the spirit people usually, tell me, because I do a lot of work with my eyes closed, okay, we're about done here. Our hour
Yes.
is up or a half an hour is up. Um, I had a German Shepherd. He's past the spirit now, but he would know when the hour was up because he'd lay at my feet when I had people over, and he at whether it was a half an hour, 45 minutes, or an hour, whatever the length of reading, he would get up,
Wow.
stretch, and it's like it would be 60 minutes exactly or whatever it was.
Wow.
So I feel like he probably felt the spirit people going, okay, we're going to leave you with our love and blessings and step back. But in other instances, when I've been in places where I have been aware of spirit people,
Mhm.
that's not been connected to identifiable ancestors of a client of mine.
Right, that's something separate. So no, they do not follow us after a reading.
Um, Here's another one. Are you afraid that you're inviting evil by doing psychic work? Again, I think that's that notion of we're opening some sort of door and then we're not able to close it.
I would say the same comment as I just made. Who's making this up? This had to come from something somewhere. Now, there's a whole other story for people who dabble in other areas
Right.
that entertain a lower vibrating energy. But for our work, where we don't entertain that at all, and we're doing things in love and light, connecting to someone's loved one in the higher and greater good, I'm
Right.
going with absolutely. This is a hard no.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. I can say it's a hard no. I've never had such an experience like that. I wouldn't allow it.
I
Um,
know.
and I've never had one. Even in my personal forays into the, exercises in the spirit world or meditations or past life stuff, I haven't ever encountered well, that's not true. That was a scary thing, but that was in Africa. So maybe that was the place and where I was. But
Oh,
in my work, I don't feel like I invited anything.
no,
Or nor has anything evil taken advantage of a connection
no.
that I've made psychically. So I would say no. And here's a follow-up question to that. It's a little bit further down the line, but I think it applies. Is it important to do protection rituals like the evil eye? And I think this might be asking,
Mm,
like in general, as we walk through the world, or maybe just with us. A lot of that is superstitious and
yeah,
cultural. That's
yeah.
not to demean it at all, but I think it's how you perceive the world. I don't perceive the world as something I need protection from or spiritual energies that I need protection from. There are certainly people I need to look out for.
I was going,
You know,
right, that's where my head went. It's the people.
and dark alleys I'm not going to go down, but I don't feel that I need to protect myself from evil forces out there with, you know, crossing myself every time I start the car or, wearing a certain piece of jewelry or doing the evil eye or telling myself a spell. I don't feel the need to do that.
My thought, I agree, but my thought on that is when you're raised culturally with that, that's
Yeah.
ingrained in a certain frequency. And I
Yeah.
believe where you put thought, matter proceeds.
Yeah.
So if you believe that to be true, then that evil eye or amulet or whatever you're using can raise to the frequency that you want for protection. If you don't entertain that in your life, you're not going to need that. I mean,
Yeah.
because I do believe the greater good prevails. It's a higher energy.
Right.
It's a higher
I believe the same, but I think you're right because not only the energetic, and where our mind goes, but the power of suggestion, even the power of self-suggestion.
absolutely.
This is the placebo effect, right?
Mhm.
In wonderful things, and the nocebo effect, in we don't want something to happen. But I feel like, if you, and that's why you and I and other psychics hopefully are hold themselves to a very high ethical standard because people can be in a very vulnerable state when they're coming for a reading, either about their future, they have a major decision to make, or about someone who's passed away. If they want communication from that, people in that emotionally vulnerable state are highly suggestible. And you
Absolutely.
have to hold yourself as a professional to a very high standard and let your clients leave feeling empowered, even if they're not hearing the answer that they want to hear. we don't ever want them to feel like I don't have control over my life or I need to
Right.
protect myself from evil forces.
Yeah, so which unfortunately many people do, and that's what gives us a bad name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There are people who set up that relationship on purpose so that they can exploit those people and get more money from them or get, I mean, you've had a couple of stories like that. I've had a couple of stories like that. I had a client once come to me. From time to time, I still do, but I used to do a lot more hypnosis. And I had a client actually come to me for hypnosis because she had been told years before that she could never get pregnant because her cousin put a curse on her, blah, blah. By the way, she had since then become the mother of twins, but she still couldn't let go of this, notion of
Right, because they planted the seed.
right, right. And it can be, and then you kind of do all these mental gymnastics. Well, if I ignore it, is it going to get worse? If I think about it, is it going to get
Right.
in, so we have I like to presume goodwill. Let's just leave it.
That leads me to another question that we're asked a lot. Is karma real?
Yeah,
Because if you're doing that to people, what you put out comes back.
yes,
I tend to question is what you put out. Some people put out a lot of negative stuff
right.
and their lives seem fine. So does it come back in a past life? Sorry, in a future lifetime?
Mm,
Or does it happen here? Because I think karma can be delayed. I don't really love the word karma,
yeah,
but I do believe there's a cause and effect
yes, I agree.
in things. So, people who are out there taking advantage of people and doing negative things, and they look like they have, this great life, I'm thinking on some level here or there, it's coming back in some way because I do believe there's a response like this.
And that law of cause and effect is a physical law of the universe. It's not
It
just
is.
a new
It
age,
is the
universal
universal laws.
law. It is a, there whatever action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And I think karma in particular, yeah, that's kind of one of those words that might trigger people into, oh, here go these loons, right? But, karma may not come back in a way that is very apparent. And I'll tell you exactly what I mean by that. I have a family member who cannot seem to respect people's boundaries. No
Mhm.
matter what is said, she will plow right through them. And by all appearances, this is a very successful woman. She is much loved by her friends. I suspect a lot of this boundary crossing is really limited to family because she knows she can manipulate and this sort of thing. And there isn't a neighbor that this woman has that she does not have boundary issues with.
Hmm.
And and she is repeatedly being she feels she's being harassed and victimized by, and she owns a number of pieces of property, and happens on all of them with all of the neighbors. There's
Right.
a drainage problem from one, and the person won't fix it. There's a fence that person won't, and it's just like, to me, I look at that and I go, that's kind of karma. You know,
Right.
here's a symbolic boundary, and here's a literal boundary, and you can fix one and maybe address the other. So I think, we have to trust that the laws of cause and effect work, whether we witness it in a way that brings justice to us personally or the way that we think it ought to carry out.
Agreed.
Personally, I had a little karmic thing. I think I'm certain I've told you this story that I had to laugh about. When I was 15 years old, I remember how old I was, remember who I was with. Um, but a couple of older kids, we were driving around and we were swinging at mailboxes with a baseball bat. And I took a turn and I was such a good girl that I like the thrill of
Went over the edge
went
there.
over the edge. I mean, I like, don't, I don't even know if I knocked it off, but I like, doink, I did it, woo. And that was I'm much, much old. Many decades have passed since I was 15. But a couple of years ago, somebody did the same to my mailbox.
Isn't that funny?
And you could see that it had been hit with a baseball bat. You could see the dent. And a couple of other neighbors had reported they'd had the same thing. And I just had to laugh. I'm like, of
Yeah,
course it
like
did. I was
it
not
may
going to,
not be instant
right,
because some of it's
right.
instant,
Yeah,
and then you never know. You think you're off the hook, and
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no,
Nobody
that's
escapes
funny.
karma. Nobody. It is
Yeah,
going,
it's
you're
true.
going to,
I
you're
just
going to,
wish it had a better word. I just don't like it because it
yeah,
institutes so much fear.
yeah.
But yeah, that's a big one. What else you got?
Somebody asks us, are soulmates real or are twin flames? We've gotten two. Are soulmates real or twin
Yeah, they're
flames?
different, yeah.
So, let's address the soulmates one. Do you feel like they're real?
Yes, but not in the perceived way that the majority of people perceive soulmates.
What do you mean?
Meaning the people like he or she's my soulmate. I know it. And then they get, abused by
Mm,
and treated like crap and, taken advantage of. So what I tend to find that we have lots of soulmates that we come back in lifetimes. I don't care if it's your mailman or if it's the guy at the store or it's the person you marry or live with. I think there's different levels of people that we come back from past lives to work things out.
yeah,
So I don't see, and I know when a client's asking me, are they my soulmate? I know their definition is different than mine.
yeah, like the
But
romantic
right,
part.
I understand their definition, but I would argue that if you were married for 30, 40, 50 years and got divorced and married someone else, that they're both your soulmates because you have some kind of thing to work out with that person.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion, but twin flames is something else. So
I
what's
would
your
agree.
on that?
I feel like a person can have more than one soulmate,
Absolutely.
even romantically.
Yeah.
So, because our souls are always fully mature, but our recognition of that or our expression of our souls and our spirits and our identification with them may not be completely mature at different stages in our lives. So who is my soulmate at 18
Right.
may be very unlikely to be my soulmate at 60,
Right.
and I think that it's a beautiful romantic story. But that doesn't mean, a soulmate relationship is an easy one. And it doesn't mean it's all going to be, fairy tale and roses in the romance.
And
Sometimes
last forever.
soulmates are souls who've decided we are going to work this out. And, and it can be a very contentious and difficult relationship. So I would say yes. I would say yes, soulmates are real. But
Yeah.
I think there are there are different ways to address that and different perspectives to address that. And
And
what
then there's the
about
twin flame though.
twin flames?
Who
Exactly.
made that up? I should do a deep dive on that too. When we first started our careers, I did not hear about twin
I
flames.
didn't
Did
hear
you?
about it either. No, I did not.
Well, somebody made this up somewhere, or we just missed it because that's a whole different thing. What's your take on that?
I don't trust it, frankly. And I'll tell you why. I've had a number of clients who have been in what I could confidently call abusive relationships. But they feel that they're twin flames. And I don't know if you know this, but one in the relationship is called the runner and one is called the chaser. And right off the bat,
I've heard that. Again, someone probably made that up, but okay.
that does not sound to me to be like a healthy relationship.
I
So I don't know, but I don't know that I've heard that twin flames are supposed to be romantic or comfortable relationships either. Maybe they just
know.
mean, but I've and what I have heard about them is that, our souls have sort of split in two and come down to the earth and we spend our life trying to find each other. I don't believe a soul can split in two. I feel that we individuate into physical persons, but we're all one. So I don't really feel like, I mean, we can feel like we have a missing half. I think it's more likely that we've identified someone who has qualities that we're missing or
Mhm.
that our parent didn't give us. I have a client who's always looking for her dad to choose her because he got married after, he got married to another woman after her parents divorced when she was very young, and then he chose his wife and had children with him. And she even knows I'm always looking for my partner who will choose me over and over
Mhm.
again, choose me no matter what situation I put him in. I need to know he's going to pick me first. She's self-aware enough to know that this is a contributing factor in the failure and success of a lot of her romantic relationships. So, you know, is that twin flame? Are we trying to fill find someone to fill the parts that are missing, to heal the parts of us that are wounded, to, you know, I just have not seen one that seems to be rewarding by any stretch of the imagination.
I
What?
have not either. And I tell people when they're like, I'm looking for my twin flame, which I don't get a lot of anymore. Because I think the level of clients I get just are at a different place in their life.
Mm,
And when I do get that, I tell them you don't want the twin flame. Lean toward the soulmate, which still isn't all that easy. But
Yeah.
the twin flame, if it's real, is difficult. It's a difficult situation.
Tell me why. Tell me why, like what about it
I
that you know is good?
feel that they are have gone through past lifetimes together. I don't know about the soul splitting. I've heard that, but I haven't investigated that enough. But even if it is, it's the things that have not been worked out so heavily
Mhm.
that they literally need to be worked out. And I don't think you do it in one lifetime.
Hmm.
I still, again, I question whether this wasn't completely made up. So,
I mean, because yeah, don't you think
yeah.
that's generally the same? I mean, I believe in reincarnation, and I believe we incarnate repeatedly with a, let's call them the soul family, or the same.
Yes.
Sometimes you're my mother and I'm the daughter. Sometimes we're husband and wife. Sometimes we're best friends. Sometimes we're in a battle and we kill each other. But we repeatedly um, re-enter the physical world in different relationships in order to grow and grow in love, and so there's always something to work out, right? until we reach
Always something to work
until
out.
we reach like the dharma or whatever it is, where we don't have to reincarnate anymore, because we've reached the perfection in that way. If you know anything, which I know very little about the Buddhist belief
Mm.
system, but something along those lines. So in that extent, you could say, well, everybody's a twin flame with whom
You
I
could. So
have.
yeah, I don't, yeah, that I don't have any more input on that.
In my experience, and I said, that the not personal experience I've had, but with the clients that I've had who were having those or believed they were having those twin flame experiences, all I saw was misery.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
here is this beautiful woman who is pursuing this man who she feels is her twin flame, and he may also have felt like she's his twin flame, talked about it, but he's not leaving his wife. Or
Yeah.
there's a wonderful man who sees the woman that he wants to spend the rest of his life with, but she can't stop shoplifting, or whatever it might be, and they just so I'm going to keep chasing you, I'm going to keep you're going to keep running, and I'm going to keep chasing, and that's become in this lexicon acceptable in a relationship where
Because it's a twin flame.
where time is wasted, right? Because you've been labeled, or we've determined together, or some medium told me on Quora or some other place, that this person is your twin flame. Don't let them go, or you have to pursue this relationship. And I think, as we talked about vulnerable people, I feel like many people use that as an excuse for why they're miserable in these relationships, or
Yes,
why
that
they're
they
not
should
able
go through it.
pursue them, because I'm supposed to be experiencing this now. And I think some extent of that is bullshit.
Yeah, no, in
That's
fact,
my
yeah, I'm
practice.
done with this, actually.
Yeah, yeah, right.
I'm done. Let's do a couple
All right.
more rapid questions
Yeah.
before we
Okay.
wind down. I know
Just
that one of the questions I get a lot, and you might, is simple. What's the best crystal for grounding? What's
yes.
the best crystal for raising your energy? And there's a lot of shades of gray here, but I would tell you that grounding, from my opinion, is I love obsidian. That's for me is one of my favorite because it's calming.
Hmm.
But there's also people do onyx. I don't do onyx as much as other people. Obsidian is my favorite. There's a much stronger one, which I don't necessarily tell people to use. What's your opinion?
I am not as into crystals as I was 30 years ago. So my familiarity with the qualities and characteristics is too far gone for me to speak on.
Okay.
I would say,
Yeah.
if in doubt, a clear quartz crystal can be programmed for anything.
Anything. I agree. What about the most obvious ones for love? The most basic one is rose quartz,
Right,
but
right.
also jade works well for that.
Okay.
And I have a top pick for highest frequency stone. Do you?
I would say it's probably amethyst.
Interesting. That's to me one of the best stones to balance frenetic energy.
Really?
For me, do I have one near me? No. Well, I do, but it's in a thing. Selenite I use and
Yeah,
hold it in
I've seen you.
every reading. I hold a selenite in my hand on a public venue. In a private reading, there is selenite. And my grounding, which I didn't say, there's one that for me is tourmaline. But I think that's a very powerful stone and not everybody could handle that. But so those are the
Yeah.
questions people ask me: grounding, love, and raising your frequency. And there's amethyst is wonderful. I use that a
Right.
lot when I used to
I
work in
get that for
the
people want to open their, they say they want to open their third eye, and so I would say if you know anything about chakras and the colors associated with chakras, you can't go wrong if you pick, like I know that the root chakra is very grounding and very, tribal, and the colors there are red and deep reds
Mhm.
like this. So you could pick a ruby or a carnelian or an agate that has red in it. So, and of course they're all personal. Your relationships with your crystals are going to be very personal, um, but
I
having a
think
couple of,
that
yeah,
the
go ahead.
next one, citrine, is excellent for the sacral chakra
Right,
because
right,
it's orange. So they tend to match the colors as
right,
they
right.
go.
And that's why I've always associated amethyst purple with the third eye, and yeah, and and even moving into the crown chakra, right, which is where, so crystals are personal, but there are some, I think like dreams, there are some standards.
Yeah,
There is some imagery like in dreams. There are some standards like in the crystals that do have grounding properties, do have attracting abundance properties, do have healing properties for the blood or for the eyesight.
right. There's specific ones. Someone asked me today in a reading, because I had told them about a crystal, and he had me repeat, which I think is important that people might want to know when you're choosing a crystal. And again, I don't stick by hard and fast rules. I do believe in an outline, but generally the left hand receives
Yeah,
energy and the right hand expresses it. So if you're picking a crystal without overthinking, I don't care if it's a piece of jewelry, pick it, whatever you're doing.
right.
The left hand is best to put it in and see what you get.
Yeah.
And don't pick it because it looks prettier. Feel, and
Mm,
as soon as you start to overthink, put it down and try again later.
yeah.
So that's a quick answer for
Yeah, I
that.
think you're right that I've forgotten that point about the left hand, but whenever I was sort of shopping for crystals, I'd pick one up and hold on to it and put it down, try another. But when you find the right one, your hand just keeps going back and
It
forth,
does.
especially
And
if
that's
it's the
why you
right
can't
thing.
look at it, right? You
Yeah,
look at it because when you're new to that, you pick the prettier one, the
right,
more aesthetically pleasing.
right.
But you get past that.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes you get the one that's all kind of chopped up or scratched, or
I
you look
know, and you're like, I didn't want that one, but you
real
keep being drawn.
right, a clear quartz crystal that's kind of cloudy or cracked.
Yeah,
Like this looks
cracked,
different,
chipped.
right?
So
Um,
any last question? You
we got
you
we
get
got
a
a couple
lot?
more. We got a couple more about being mediums. One, can
Oh
anybody get
yeah,
messages from the dead? And I would say yes, anybody can get messages from their loved ones in the spirit world.
I agree. You know what I'm gonna say? What's my example I always use? Anybody can connect to their loved ones in various ways. If you don't get dreams about them, don't be sad. I have so many clients that are upset they don't dream. I don't dream. Everyone can do it, but not everyone should do it for a living.
Right, right,
Right? What's my example? Everybody can sing, but not everybody should do it on Broadway.
right,
Do it in
right.
the shower. So
Yeah,
yes, you can. You can rule out bias confirmation, ask for some weird stuff.
yep,
You'll get it.
yep, yep.
Period.
And spirit people always say, hey, if you think it's me, it's me. Because they put themselves into your awareness while you're turning on the radio and your dad's favorite Frank Sinatra song comes in.
Right. When you're least thinking about it, don't be thinking, I always say, don't be thinking about, oh, mom, give me a rose and go into a florist.
Right.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, right.
The craziest things, they can let them do their work. They're very powerful.
Yeah. And here's another quick one. Can you heal a relationship even if the person is dead? Even if the person has passed away before fences have been mended?
Yes.
What's your take on that? Mine too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we get in our own way and
Yeah.
we build it up. They still hate us or they're still mad at us or blah, 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 blah. That's the earthly them. I'm
Right.
not saying it's all wine and roses, but you can actually do work on healing. And by healing yourself, you bring it up to them, they see it. It's a reciprocity. So that's my quick answer.
And you and I have been to a couple of healing masses in the local area, and I was surprised to hear the Catholic priest asked Saint Therese, because this was a mass for Saint Therese and her healing, to heal ancestral pain and
I was
ancestral.
shocked at that. I have
We
to
were
admit.
shocked. I can remember just
You
looking at each other like in the Catholic Church.
I
So
know.
yeah, so I think that, and if you've ever been to a spiritualist church, one of their tenets is that the how does it go? The door to reformation is never closed here or hereafter. So we can always heal even though the loved one has passed away. And how about one more? Someone asks us, do pets go to heaven? I think this is a clear yes.
I think it's a clear yes.
Yeah.
You know, people ask me, is the Rainbow Bridge real? You might have more knowledge. I bring pets through all the time, but you have had more pets than I have. I don't know that someone didn't construct the word Rainbow Bridge and construct this whole thing that there's a bridge in pets to make us feel better, so
Yeah.
we can visualize where they are.
Right.
To me, bridge, no bridge, absolutely. I can get a pet like a person. They absolutely cross over just like people.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I did a wonderful message yesterday for a young woman whose sister's boyfriend had passed away. And a couple of years ago in a boating accident. And at first she didn't know who I was talking about. And I said, he has to tell you that he had some kind of like hound dog or something. Like because she couldn't put it together because I kept saying it's not a family member, but she's a
Right.
very young woman, early 20s. And she was, her grandfather had come in and her grandmother. And so, outside of that immediate circle, she was not, she wasn't being resistant, but it just wasn't
Right.
coming up for her. And I said, he wants me to tell you that this hound dog is waiting for him. And it all came together for her. It was her sister's boyfriend's brother, something like this. So sort of connected to the family because when she talked to her sister knew exactly about it. But he had had like a bloodhound, and when the
Um,
bloodhound died, he'd had it like since he was 2 years old, and I think he passed away at like 17, in a boating accident. And the bloodhound had passed just a year before him, and he was heart sick, and he said the hound is waiting for me when I got here. So I think our pets aren't just in heaven. I think they are with us.
right. Mhm.
I've had, horses, birds,
Oh,
dogs, cats, ferrets,
grizzly bear.
grizzly bear. All
The
right.
grizzly bear. I feel, and I don't know if you have experienced this, I feel that pets tend to come and join us and visit us from the other side more frequently on a steady basis than
Mm,
people, because people have stuff to do over there.
yeah,
I find pets tend to hang out more. I don't mean be stuck here. I
right.
mean visit more and be around you more. That's been my experience.
I think I'd have to agree with that. I had an Akita years ago who passed away at 9, and I heard his nails on the floor for 6 months after that.
Wow.
And it just I sometimes I would feel like his weight when he got in the bed, and after
Mhm.
initial freak out, you're like, oh, good, Puck, nice to see you.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a wonderful thing. Yeah.
Well, this
Well,
has been fun. I'm
that's
like,
been
let's get
fun.
some
I
more
like I
questions.
like dealing with these questions. So you guys send them in. You can, if you're listening to us on Buzzsprout, you can send us fan mail. We can't answer fan mail, but if you do want an answer from us, we'll get it and we'll likely address it on one of our upcoming podcasts. But you can email us at etherealmaterialpod@gmail. You can also email us at info@etherealmaterialpodcast.com. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Spotify. I don't know if you can talk to us on Spotify though. You can find us on TikTok as well. So we would love to hear from you. There are no stupid questions. We love that you're engaged and listening and wanting to know about these things. So ask away because we are here, and we'll, like we did today, store up a bunch of them, and we'll address them in chunks like this.
And maybe you'll inspire us to do a whole podcast on something.
Exactly right. Or if you've had a fantastic experience, have you on as a guest. The possibilities are endless. And in the meantime, until we meet again, keep believing
Keep questioning.
and keep in touch. Until next time, guys. Bye.